Hello, everyone. Welcome to C-Suite Talks. We speak with industry leaders, introducing you to some of the most interesting people and businesses today. Welcome to C-Suite Talks. I'm Beth Hilbing, co-CEO of C-Suite.
And I'm Dianne Gubin, co-CEO, along with Beth. And this week, we are so happy we're speaking with our C-Suite member and our sponsor, Leslie Stackpole. Leslie is a partner with RSM US, and Leslie leads the Los Angeles office. She's also a tax partner, a CDI advocate, and supporter of Women's Growth and Initiative at RSM. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you today.
Yes.
Leslie and her organization has been sponsors of C-Suite, and we truly appreciate that because it allows us to continue with all the wonderful programming we do.
Yes.
So let's kind of start. So tell us about the work you're doing with RSM and what is a CDI advocate?
So at RSM, we're a professional service firm that really serves the middle market companies. We pride ourselves on being first choice advisors and really understanding our clients. As far as being a CDI advocate, RSM and I personally strongly believe that having a inclusive and diverse work environment will help us succeed.
So what's CDI?
CDI. We have several initiatives to help us get there. One being our employee network groups. So we have 12 different employee network groups that are, across the board. We've got, OLA for our Latinos. We have ACE that supports our African American communities. We have STAR, which stands for Stewardship Teamwork for the Advancement and Retention of Women, which I personally am very passionate about. And then several others. We really try to reach all of our employees in a nice way, in a connecting way.
Yes, I think Dianne was asking too, what's the acronym? What is CDI?
Yeah. Cultural diversity and inclusion. I apologize.
Oh, got it. Well, you certainly have that covered.
DEI, I believe, in other organizations.
Oh, yeah, that's how we think of it, DEI, and of course, the B, belonging. Yeah. So, Leslie, there's so many accounting firms out there, and I know, RSM, you're large. You're one of the larger ones. So what is it that makes RSM different?
Here at RSM, we really truly believe that we're powered by our culture, which is really what makes us unique and leads to our success. We promote a transparent, caring, and authentic environment that fosters meaningful connections for our people. We empower our people to take control of their career, to get to the next step. So we really believe it's our culture that makes us who we are.
Yeah, we saw some of that at both within your organization here in LA and in Chicago. And it just made me so happy to see all of the young, diverse RSM employees, and that, they were so brilliant, and it made me feel confident that we have strong workers and strong employees going into the future. So
yeah, you can really see where RSM brings everybody up.
It's interesting because we do have, people that come from other firms, from partner all the way down to staff, and they all say they really can feel the cultural difference at RSM, which we're pretty proud of.
Yeah. It almost seems like you went into like a tech culture, because you had this amazing space in Chicago where you could have speakers and people could hang out, and you even have like a beer lounge there.
Yeah.
Which was great.
I have not visited that office, but I've heard it's pretty cool.
So we know you're new in Los Angeles, and we're kind of interested in, what do you like about LA? What's the work and business environment between LA and other areas? What are you enjoying about your transition to LA, or not?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I actually live downtown, and I love the culture. I love the people. I love the great restaurants. I have to say I love the weather because I came from Phoenix, right? So the summers here are just about perfect. What's interesting about the business community in LA is it's very spread out. Having worked in New York and Boston, it's not similar to those. It's not dissimilar from Phoenix, though. They tend to have different kind of business hubs. So I spent, one of the things I love most, again, talking about diversity, is I'd heard that LA was a really diverse work environment, but now having experienced it, I mean, we have such a great diverse workforce to pull from. It's amazing.
It's
wonderful. And not just the people, but also, the companies and the culture in LA. I love it. And what kind of companies do you work with at RSM? I know you said middle market, but there are specific niches within that you focus on?
We really go to market by industry. We really try to, we pride ourselves on delivering, like I said, the power of being understood and kind of, having that kind of industry business acumen when we show up at the door, whether it's a client or a prospect. We serve clients in a variety of industries, but, some of our top ones are financial services, consumer products, industrial products. We do a lot in real estate, healthcare, to name a few, but we tend to have teams. Each of our employees picks kind of a focus one industry and a focus two industry. And to the extent possible, we try to align them with companies in their industry.
That's fabulous. That's wonderful. And then when you're researching and looking for business, how does RSM like to interact or go about that?
Well, you go for a beer in Chicago.
Yeah, there you go. Well, when we're researching, we have marketing people, we have business developers. Our kind of sweet spot to serve clients is, from the $20 million to $500 million range, but, we go as high as $1 billion. What's interesting is our firm, as it, nationally did a study, a project that they called Convergence, to try to figure out, what are the best markets? Where do we have the people? What are the best industries across the country to spend our money on from a marketing perspective? And LA is one of the top 5 markets. So we have a lot of support from the firm trying to help us target and get those right clients in the door.
Right.
So with the exodus we've seen of companies moving out of these large cities, I think that now there's a focus to bring them back, right? And have you seen new businesses coming into LA? Because I know there was quite a few that left in the pandemic. But
it's kind of interesting. And someone had said to me, and I think it's very true, that for every company that leaves LA, there's another incubator behind it.
Sure.
Starting. I mean, at the end of the day, there's things I don't like about California, taxes and sometimes politics. But I will say that, we're close. Obviously, we're at a great location for the ports. We've got a diverse, workforce to pull from. There's just so many great things about LA that brings companies still here. So I think that yes, we're seeing a lot of startups, a lot of SPACs, and I suspect a lot of those that left during the pandemic, those that went to Texas, Arizona, they may be back after a couple of those summers.
Yeah, or floods now, right? Right. So you're a tax partner. So what does that actually mean that you do on a regular basis? Do you only work with a company when they need taxes, or is it kind of all year? It's taxes all year in your world.
Yeah, I mean, taxes are all year, right? From a planning perspective. So, at my level, I do more of the consulting needs, which happens all year long. I've taken, I have teams that work on the tax compliance, but, at my level, it tends to be more year round. Now, some of our younger folks still, there's always busy season right around the tax deadlines, as we know. But, as our partners, we're very much enterprise thinkers and enterprise leaders. While I say my trade is tax, I like to think of myself as, really an enterprise leader that I love to sell audit, tax, and consulting. So.
Audit, tax, and consulting.
What are some of the challenges that you have to work with, and how do you deal with them?
Obviously public accounting is kind of known for being a grind, known for being kind of the long hours. And, the new generation coming up, they're just not buying into it. So, we're looking at things and saying, how can we do things differently? We need to think about this differently. We need to flatten kind of that busy season curve. We need to use technology and be efficient. It's also in public accounting, it's really important that you connect with your people, because people working 60 hours from home does not make a kind of happy employee. But if their buddy next to them is doing the same thing, somehow it's a little easier. So I think with COVID has made that really a challenge on, how do we get our people in enough to connect? And, obviously during the height of COVID, they weren't connecting. So I think we're just looking at things differently.
Right.
Yeah, I know when we were in Chicago, it was good to see so many people back in the city, but when we were speaking with some of your executives there, they did say that is a challenge to get people to come back into the city to work.
Yes.
And to get them to stay. So.
And come up with that hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah. So Leslie, with all that you do, what is your personal passion? What is it that you personally enjoy the most?
I think I'd have to say it's kind of stewardship and growing our people. I've had the pleasure of making a couple of partners in my career, and it's super rewarding, as you kind of mentor and coach them throughout the process. And then when they finally make it, and it's hard, right? Like I said, it's a little bit of a grind getting there, but just to see them reach that reward, and to get where, to that pinnacle of partner, I think is awesome. And I have not made a female partner, but I would love to make a female partner. I would be super passionate about that.
I love that. What does it take to be a partner that someone hasn't made it yet? Like, tell.
I think I just haven't been in the right position at the right time. It's just, if you look at public accounting in general, we just do not have enough women partners. We just do not have enough women in leadership. We know it's important. Obviously traditionally the woman stayed home, and women just need a different sort of kind of mentoring. And, they need, we do classes, for confidence building, for self-advocacy. They just have a different style. And I think that we've made leaps and bounds. But, I still walk into many a meeting and it's all men. So we're working on it.
Do you think it's generational? Do you think it's going to take another generation of workers to work that through?
Yeah, I do think generationally, because I think people aren't having kids. My 22-year-old says he's not having kids. Now, he might change his mind, right? But as you see the families go down and there's not as many children, and people are saying, hey, I don't want to work as hard. Maybe we both just, work a little bit less. So, I don't know. I think I say generationally, but then I also, on the other hand, say, some of them are just saying, I don't want to work that hard, Leslie. I don't want to do what you do. So, I don't need to work that. I don't need that much money. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Can I make the money but work half the time?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I like that. Let's make it easy. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So, go ahead, Dianne.
Yeah, go on.
No, please.
Well, I'm hearing what a supporter you are of women's growth and initiatives. So tell us more about the work you're doing at RSM and personally. You just alluded to a bunch of things, like to get more women into the funnel up.
Yeah, and we have no problem getting them in the bottom funnel. If you look at the people that we hire, in certain years, the number of women may be higher than the amount of men. It's basically keeping them in the funnel, keeping them in the pipeline. So, I mentioned to you STAR, which is our women's initiative. And, through that program, we started off and we had a manager program for women, because we found that we were losing a ton of women at the manager level. And it's really just a 3-day, they have 3 meetings, and they're 2 to 3 days apiece throughout maybe a 6 to 8 month period. And they meet other women in their position. We have a couple of partners that kind of teach the training. And it's really just to let them connect with other women, to let them connect with the partners, and really just try to keep them in the pipeline, and keep them wanting to work at RSM, and understand that there is flexibility, and they can be a partner, they can be a mom, and they can be a partner, and they can be a wife. So we recently started, a couple of years ago, we realized, we're starting to lose people at the supervisor level. So we started an S2 program. And then we also have an S4 program, which is for women senior managers. So we're really trying to support them throughout the process and get them to stay in. And, I think that the bottom line is, if we had 2 candidates and they were, all things were equal, they were exactly the same, and there's a woman and a man, the woman would probably win the edge. At some point you have to be deliberate about what you're doing. Obviously, if the man is the better candidate, then they would get the position. But we're very intentionally trying to get women to the upper ranks.
That's great. That's really good to hear as well. What kind of background do you look for? And then we'll move off of this. Do they have to have accounting in their background? What kind of background are you looking, or like an MBA or? Yeah,
it depends on which group that they're in. So, if you hear, we have partners and principals. Principals are not CPAs. So there are people in the tax function that have law degrees, and they can't practice law, but they can be a principal in tax. In general, in audit, you have to have your CPA. And most of the people in tax have CPAs. In our consulting group, depending on what you do, a lot of them, if they're working in IT, they have a computer science degree. Some of them have business degrees. Some of, it can be across the board, but usually that's the distinction: partner versus principal and principal would be a non-CPA.
Okay, that's cool. So what's come, and then I'm sorry, but what are some of the myths about your job or your field?
Yeah, or accounting, just in general.
Just accounting, it's interesting, but I think that people that the accounting profession has gotten this reputation for kind of being nerdy, kind of introverts. Oh, you're an accountant, you're this, and we're actually, a lot of us are not. And, in order to get to the higher ranks, you really need to be personable. You need to be outgoing. You need to be able to have good communication skills. So I always, people always laugh, particularly when I say I'm a tax accountant. They're like, oh, I wouldn't have thought you were. So,
Well, yeah, I think the hardest thing is, from the outside, not anymore, but I used to quake at the thought of talking to my accountant. Okay. It just was such a I don't know, scary thought at that time.
Interesting.
It brings me comfort to know that we have someone that is looking at our accounting and all that, because it's just not something I forte in. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. We have a bookkeeper.
And it's not the same
CPA,
as your home taxes.
Yeah. Right.
No, it's different. Yes, for sure. For sure. So what do you think? What do you think it takes to succeed in accounting? Like, if someone is interested in a career in the accounting niche, what do you think it takes besides the personality?
Obviously I think you have to have that. You got to be kind of that thinker. We have a lot of people, myself included, that has an engineering background. You have to be kind of analytical and technical enough. But I think you really have to kind of embrace the profession. You got to love what you do as far as the accounting work, but you also have to love getting out there and talking to people and solving problems. I mean, that's really what we are, is we're kind of problem solvers. We have the compliance side, obviously, and, the audit side. But, I like to think of us as kind of business advisors and just bringing great advice to our clients. So, if you're thinking you're just going to be sitting in an office and, kind of plugging away on the numbers, and we do have some people that do that. And of course we do need those people too. But I think to really succeed, you have to learn to really be a business advisor and think outside the box and bring value to your clients. That's how you'll succeed.
Fabulous.
I love that.
So what are some of the challenges you're facing today in your role? And then how do you overcome them?
I mean, today our biggest challenge is people. And, from a couple fronts. One, the Great Resignation hit us very, very hard, right? We lost all kinds of people, even during busy season, which was somewhat unheard of historically. You wouldn't lose people. To overcome that, we've been very creative from the resourcing side. We look at, our scheduling is more on a national basis, right? Because that's the one thing about COVID we know, is that you don't need to be in the office to do it. You can use people wherever to do it. We've also looked at different staffing alternatives offshore that make sense, whether consultants. We have more employees in India to kind of fill that gap. But, certainly people is our big struggle now. We had kind of hoped it would turn over the summer, and it hasn't quite yet, but I do suspect there'll be more people on the market in, a year or two, once, a lot of them jump ship for a few extra dollars and realize maybe that wasn't so bad. We do tend to have a lot of boomerangs. So that's a big challenge, and just getting people into the office. And, LA is tough, really tough, because the commute is hard. So, we've really tried to come up with, what I'll call like meaningful experiences, a purpose for them to come in. I mean, we do lunch Tuesdays and Thursdays, but people aren't going to just come in because of lunch. I encourage.
Hey, I want to.
Yeah. All right. It does help. It does help. But, other than the lunch, I tell people, meet with your teams, go out to lunch, set up a planning meeting. Because I think people will come in if they feel like there's a purpose, if there's a reason that they're coming in. But if they're just coming in to sit at a cube, they're like, I could have done this at home, right? I could have just sat at home. So, and we strongly believe that while hybrid is a great idea, and depending on what team you work on, the hybrid schedule might look different, but we know we need that connection. We know we need that, in-person connection between, we're people, right? And we're in a people business. So, we're really struggling with how to turn that around.
Yeah. I mean, I go in at least 3 or 4 days a week, and I like that.
I work from
because
home 5 days a week, 7 days
I
a
like to
week.
say hi. Well, my cats were starting to lead my life, so I thought
Yeah. And it's funny. I come in a lot because I happen to live 4 blocks away, so I have a better setup in the office. So I like it. And I like leaving and knowing like, okay, my day's kind of done. I usually log on again at night, but that's just what I like. But I get it that people, they've got long commutes. So I don't think it's unreasonable that people work from home, 2 to 3 days a week or whatever works. But there's got to be that balance, and we're just trying to figure that out.
well, that's good. And we wish you luck with that. I just, as a final discussion point, what do you want to make sure our listeners understand about you, and what advice would you give them if you have someone looking to come into this field?
I would just say that accounting is really a great field, and you'll always have a job. That, we really aren't.
That's so true.
It is so true. And, my son went for environmental science, not accounting, but I feel like accounting is one of those professions that even if you end up being a marketer, that you'll always be glad that you had that accounting base. In your personal life, you'll be glad that you had that accounting base. I just think it's really, it's a lucrative, it's a challenging field. And I think that, anybody that has that acumen for numbers should consider it. I mean, I think about myself, growing up, my parents didn't know any accountants. So, for me, it was a second career. Unless you know someone that does it, you're not thinking about doing it. So, and I just say a plug for RSM that, we're the 5th largest firm, but, again, while we have the, international presence and we're able to serve globally active clients, we like to think we kind of have that local touch. We kind of remind ourselves, and, we're not trying to be, the big 5. We definitely want to serve the middle market, which LA is full of middle market companies. So look us up if you need some services.
Right. Because Leslie, you are very visible, and so is your team too, I know, around town.
Absolutely.
It's great. Well, thank you for that. Thank you, Leslie Stackpole, a partner with RSM. We've so enjoyed having you on today. Thank you to our sponsors: accounting firm RSM, Google, the law firm of Manette, advertising, media, and PR companies of Interpublic Group, IPG, and executive search and IT consulting, Amplify Professional Services. Thank you all for listening. Beth, you want to wrap us up?
Sure. So hit the subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcast today. Leave us a review, of course, 5 stars. And then follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. Send an email, any questions you may have, to beth@csweet.org. And come to our website, www.csuite.org. Come to some of the events. We put on over 41 events a year, and the sponsorship from RSM helps keep those going. And so we truly appreciate it, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dianne.
Beth.
Have a great weekend.